somebody here for you. They say they've just killed the Joker.
They brought the body.
So, dead? That's 500.
How about a lie? You want to know how I got these scars? My father was a drinker and a fiend. And one night, he goes off crazier than usual. Mommy gets the kitchen knife to defend herself. He doesn't like that. Not one bit. So, me watching, he takes the knife to her, laughing while he does it. He turns to me, and he says, "Why so serious?" He comes at me with the knife. "Why so serious?" He sticks the blade in my mouth. Let's put a smile on that face. And why so serious? Now.
All right. I want to thank you for checking out another podcast of We Ain't Scared Talk. My name is A1, and we ain't scared. That opening or that intro was from Batman Dark Knight, was released in 2008, and it starred Heath Ledger and Christian Bale. This was a extremely successful movie, and of course, other Batman sequels, if you call them that, followed. But I wanted to set the tone for this particular podcast with some audio that is familiar to a lot of people. Why so serious? As the Joker has his switchblade in the mouth of one of the other actors' henchmen in that particular movie. So, as always, let me just set this up as I normally do. Thank you for taking the time to check out another podcast. I don't take that lightly. I know we all lead very, very busy lives, and I am grateful to have your support. I don't take it lightly. Also, special shout out to those people that purchased their We Ain't Scared Talk mugs. These mugs are strong, and they will be able to withstand and defeat the Joker, right? Couldn't resist. They are virtually indestructible. You don't drop them and break them, they will live forever. So get on over there. If you have any questions about that, just hit me on social media and I can get you that info. Wow. An immediate observation just about where we are in the year. We have 6 weeks left, people. 6 weeks, and then it is 2020. That is amazing and astounding to me to even say 2020. I remember as kids, we'd hear that, and it just seemed like a million years away. We felt like, okay, they're going to have flying cars and basically living like the Jetsons. And quite honestly, we're not far from that, just based on the drones and the autonomous vehicles. But will it be like the Jetsons? I don't know. But I don't want to digress too much. So let's go ahead and jump into today's topic. And as always, I like to give backstory on just how and where the idea for my podcast came from. So I'm going to paint a picture. So here is what we are going to be discussing or talking about today. And it is, why are white males celebrated for being psychopaths? Again, why are white males celebrated for being psychopaths? Now, I sort of struggled with the term psychopath, not because I don't understand it, but because sociopath is probably a little more fitting, but I think there is a combination of white male psychopathic behavior combined with white male sociopathic behavior. So here's the difference. A psychopath lives life completely disconnected and just acting out violently for violence sake. A sociopath, with the term or focus on socio or social, they live a seemingly normal life, okay? And however, they engage in psychopathic behavior. So on the outside, it looks like they're a normal person to go to work, but at home, they're eating people. Okay, that's a sociopath. A psychopath, they're just running around and they're just violent for violence sake. So that's why it could have gone either way, but I think that there is there's a little bit of counter play. They kind of volley back and forth. So that's enough of that. I will be referencing an article on this particular podcast from Forbes.com. Okay, and it basically is going to spell out the financial upside or profit from the latest Joker movie, which is what I'm using as the foundation for this particular podcast. Now, this particular movie is the highest grossing R-rated movie of all times. It was the Ryan Reynolds, God, why am I having a brain fart here? The superhero movie that he did. It'll come to me, but I'm sure you already know what it is. But for my personal thoughts, it is no secret that white America is and has been the dominant culture for hundreds of years. And they have fought to retain this title, by brute force and murdering anybody or any group that attempted to stand in their way, fight against that white male threat. And usually that same person suffered a terrifying death, right? Now, it, to me, is massive overcompensation. Massive. And there's a lack of intelligence when it comes to violence and warfare. And at the same time, these white males will attempt to seek sympathy. So the same white males that engage in this violent behavior will attempt to seek sympathy for their violence. Now, to me, okay, that is the same as having a mental illness. And Deadpool is the name of that superhero movie, Deadpool, with Ryan Reynolds. Now, to get back on track here, we got to go back in time, and that's that in order to come forward. Because all throughout history, white males have traveled or circumnavigated the globe. And every tribe or every group of people that they have interacted with or encountered, they've killed, maimed, or left with disease and destruction, a trail or path of destruction. So there is no other race of people, and there is no question or questioning this. There's no other race of people on the planet that have this history of violence. And at the same time, making excuses that they came to offer hope or a new beginning for the savages or the uncultured. It's ironic because it's actually the white European that was the savage and the uncultured, and it was the Moors that taught them how to frickin' bathe themselves, that taught them about hygiene. Okay, but let me continue. There's this type of arrogance that white males have about their presence in any environment, that they somehow are going to make it better by them being there, when in fact, they usually are uninvited and not welcomed because of their violent tendencies. And I'm not qualifying anything that I'm saying. I'm done with the over-qualifying. People, well, that's not, I'm done with that. It's not me, bull. If it's not you, keep it pushing. As a black man, I can speak firsthand about this brutality based on the history of chattel slavery for over 250 years in America, followed by 150 years of Jim Crow, redlining, slave codes, vagrancy laws. And this was perpetrated by white males. Let's be clear, and I've said this before, racism in America is a battle that has been and is continuing to be fought between white men and black men, period. Because we are the alpha males in these respective cultures. And white men have obsessed with our black male bodies sexually and otherwise since we got here and during the transatlantic slave trade. White males have perpetrated the worst kind of atrocities in this country for over 400 years, and they still have not accepted responsibility for it by not paying reparations to black people to the tune of $17 trillion, but they want to spend $29 trillion bailing out the banks, the auto industry, the insurance, Wall Street industry in 2008. But let me continue. Black people are the descendants of this destruction, and we have never been acknowledged for that pain and never been paid back financially for the pain that was caused to us, that was brought to us by this godforsaken country. White males are obsessed with power at any and all costs and will justify their brutality with any excuse like it was a threat to national security, or the fact that they believe they're entitled to have whoever and whatever they want, whenever they want. It's this arrogance that leads to this hostility and abuse in many damaging ways. And what is ironic is that they don't view their violence as a problem. Because again, I believe that they believe they have some intrinsic God-given right to behave reckless in any situation. And to me, that is the epitome of mental illness or being a sociopath or psychopath. White males are so drunk with their own self-proclaimed position of authority that to even imply that they are genetically or mentally predisposed for having mental issues, that their reaction to it is utter disbelief. What do you mean there's something wrong with eating people? What do you mean I can't cut the eyeballs out of corpses and play pool with them? What do you mean I can't cut off genitals of black men and sell them as trinkets and as something that you sell at a fair or a carnival as a gift? What do you mean I can't skin black people alive and make a jacket? Oh, how could you? No matter how many examples you provide about their inability to cohabitate with non-white people without war breaking out. And here's some examples. Adolf Hitler, King Leopold II, who slaughtered over 15 million Africans. And really every king of any country has engaged in either human trafficking with slaves or warfare. Every American president that has ever sat in the White House has started a war of some sort for profit or intentionally planted a dictator in a foreign country to do their bidding. And when that dictator got drunk with their newfound power, that same white male politician that put him there had the nerve to get upset and then send in a CIA hit squad to kill that same dictator. And some examples of this: Saddam Hussein in Iraq, Osama bin Laden, Afghanistan, and Manuel Noriega. And that was Panama. They went in, scooped Manuel Noriega, and locked him in an underground prison for over 4 years when he wouldn't cooperate. But let's continue, and you can look all this up. Bin Laden was trained by the U.S. to fight the Russians. That's a fact. So as I look throughout history, I don't see any time at all where the white male presence has been a positive or healthy influence in any way, shape, or form. Again, over 400 years of slavery validates that. Segregation validates that. Oppression, racism in America validates that. Police brutality, lynchings, burning down independent, autonomous, black, wealthy cities validates that. Redlining, Jim Crow, slave codes, the fucking Civil War validates that statement. World War I and II, and I'm certain the third one that's on the way, will be perpetrated by white males hungry and greedy for power. Now, as a comparison, there's never been an African president that has ever left the continent of Africa with a military force to kill or take over another country or continent or its people by dropping bombs, Nagasaki, Hiroshima, leaving disease, Indians, Trail of Tears, military occupation, Iraq, Afghanistan, or imposing their culture, Africa, the United States, on that civilization. This is strictly a white male diseased way of thinking. It's amazing to me that any non-black person trusts anything that white males say or do based on their violent behavior. Now, let me just, quick sidebar. I posted something on social media. Black people are under no obligation at all, after 400 years of this bullshit, to blindly trust the motives of white people, but in particular, white men. We are under no obligation because they've only proven that they have our worst interest at heart. Black men are constantly painted as violent by white America with 3 Ks, when in fact, it's the white males that are the most violent. But unfortunately, they control the media and therefore have the power of shaping the views of the general public and world, for that matter. But just because they possess these tools does not mean the truth will not survive or rise. And we all are responsible for speaking truth to power, no matter what. And I will be screaming it at power. You're wrong. You need to do better. Get over yourself. Stop being racist and stop hating on black people. And to those white males that may be listening and shaking their head in disagreement, yes, if you're shaking your head in disagreement, it's probably you. You know, if you're saying, well, I'm not violent, so I don't know what he means, my response is this. It doesn't have to be you. But it is somebody that looks like you and shares your same traits. And the same way innocent black men get lumped into the same category as violent black men, you, white male, get no pass from me and are subject to the same categorization. This is a two-way street, at least for me. There's no more double standard passes. And for those black people that may be saying or thinking, well, A1, you're no better than the white male haters that oppress, if you have that mentality. And my response to that is, yes, I am better. because I don't have the same history of global violence. So you goddamn right I'm better. It's always amazed me how white males can be hypersensitive or hyper vigilant to discrimination when they are the target, but instantly become blind as a motherfucking bat when the discrimination is targeted at non-white people or black people. Then the usual response is, you need to work harder, try harder, go to school, get a good education, when in fact, none of these things matter when we are combating as black people nepotism, racism, favoritism, cronyism, greedyism, I know it's not a word, and white maleism. That's what we are fighting against, that white males are engaging in. That's the determining factor in all the decisions to either promote or hire a non-black person. White males are very calculating, and nothing happens by accident with them. If they aren't going to gain more than they are going to lose, you better damn well believe you are not getting what you want. Meritocracy is a lie. And for those that don't know what meritocracy is, it's the idea or the philosophy that if you work hard, the merits of your hard work will reward you with the opportunities that you are seeking, which is complete and utter nonsense. Now, I'm past the mentality that we have to lie about this truth. I'm past the reality that somehow this will change. You cannot befriend racism and hateful behavior. And nobody with half a brain can conclude that white males have not engaged in hateful, racist behavior throughout recent and modern history. And the white males of today that claim that they do not engage in the same behavior are equally responsible because they do not condemn the behavior of their white male counterparts. Therefore, your silence is complicity, because if black men were behaving in the same manner and not calling each other out, white males would be quick to shout, see, black men are violent and they don't condemn each other, as a way to try to chastise or admonish us into stopping the bad behavior. So with that being said, let's go back to the media and entertainment, because this is the barometer that I'm going to be using on this particular podcast to paint this picture more specifically. Everybody wants specifics. You want facts. I don't deal with emotion, for the record. I deal with facts. So miss me with the emotion and give me the facts. Okay, example number one, American Psycho, Christian Bale. This movie came out in the year 2000. He was some executive, Wall Street executive, seemingly normal, but he had a penchant for carving up victims with knives in his condo, his New York condo. That movie grossed $34 million in the year 2000. The next one, One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, starring Jack Nicholson. This is a prolific example of the violence of white males. This movie came out in 1975. It grossed $109 million. Now keep in mind, this was 1975. So we're going to fast forward to 2019. The Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix. This movie, again, is the number one highest grossing R-rated movie in history. $744 million to date. By the time this podcast drops, it will eclipse $1 billion. So to give more specifics, because you got to have them, 304 million in North America alone. That's America after 5 weeks in the theaters. Joker's global cumulative average is around $953 million. You're approaching $1 billion, as I said. So presuming that it's 32%, okay, domestic 68%, overseas split, as they call it, holds, then this is where that $1 billion mark comes into play. So this is the other interesting fact. The cost to shoot this movie was $62 million. That's it. But it has grossed 15 times that amount. 15 times. And the director, Todd Phillips, is now being viewed as potential Oscar-nominated, as a potential Oscar nominee. So the movie The Joker could win an Oscar. It's amazing to me that this is the case. So there's a genuine thirst for blood and violence among white males because it is white males that are driving this energy to see this movie. Doesn't mean that no one else wants to see it, but the predominant audience are young white males. That's undeniable. Interesting, too, is the mass shootings are another example of that. And if you remember in Aurora, Colorado, a few years ago, a white male dressed as the Joker walked into a movie theater and shot it up and killed a bunch of people at a Joker movie, a Batman movie. White males have self-diagnosed themselves with mental illness. Anytime there's a mass shooting, oh, he's got mental illness. So what other conclusion can you draw when they have drawn the conclusion that they suffer from mental illness? And the only thing that I can say is I agree. The real question is, how come they're more comfortable accepting it as normal and not outraged enough to do anything about it? That's the question. White males are cops. White males are judges. White males are lawyers. White males are teachers. White males are politicians. White males are U.S. presidents. White males are in the military at every level, from the top to the bottom. And in all of the above examples, white males are celebrated for their violence and psychopathic or sociopathic behavior. And our current President 45 is the greatest example of sociopathic or psychopathic white male behavior. There is something seriously wrong with this man's mind, based on how he can spew violence and vitriol daily and get up the next day like he has done nothing wrong, throwing rocks and hiding your hands. And the 51% of the country that put him in office, mostly white women, can be lumped into the psychopathic category too. This disease of mental illness is contagious and running wild all over this country, and it's being rewarded based on how all of the other white male politicians, GOP, fight harder to align themselves with him than to disassociate themselves. White males are bending, twisting, tweaking, splitting hairs, semantics. They're working overtime. They would much rather align themselves with a crazy, powerful white male than a sane black man that wants to help and empower people. Again, this is my opinion. And as this is so deep-seated as a mental illness that controls white males, it's beyond sickening. I don't even have a word for it. It's just sickening. So I guess to answer the question, why are white males celebrated for being psychopaths? The only answer I can come up with is because there's no downside financially, societal, or otherwise to discourage the violent, psychopathic, or sociopathic behavior. Most Americans will spend their hard-earned dollars to see it on the big screen and or drive to the nearest polling place to vote for a white male psychopath and put him in political office. It's sad, but it's true. And now I'm going to continue doing what I've always done, and that's point out the double standards of the violence between black males and white males until hopefully there is a change in this mentality that one is not better than the other. And white male violence should not be accepted as normal. It should not be accepted as normal. Now, I'm certain you have your own thoughts, and that's great. Let's keep the conversation going. I want to thank you for checking out another podcast of We Ain't Scared Talk. My name is A1, and you got some great food for thought. Listen again. Tell a friend. We